A post-physical energy being drifted into the Xylos system, its form, an ethereal shimmer in the cold void, a silent observer across countless cosmic epochs. Passive scans initiated, bathing the barren, rust-colored planet in waves of probing energy. Its focus narrowed, settling on a visible, rudimentary penal colony scarring the surface. The initial data streams returned, confirming the observers' long-held expectations regarding lesser civilizations. Xylos hosted a population of biological primitives, their societal structure simplistic, their technology rudimentary, barely scratching the surface of true interstellar capability. The penal system appeared overtly brutal, inefficient by advanced metrics, a stark reflection of their species, chaotic, emotional tendencies in a harsh, unforgiving environment. The observing entity categorized the entire endeavor as low-tier, uninteresting, a predictable pattern in the endless tapestry of developing life. Closer scans detailed the convicts' grim existence, short, arduous lifespans, consumed by repetitive, back-breaking labor under a scorching, alien sun. Crude shelters dotted the landscape, surrounded by fences of barbed metal, a testament to their primitive means of control. There was no evidence of complex societal structures, no advanced industry beyond the most basic resource extraction, only the relentless, seemingly futile toil of those deemed unworthy by their own kind. The observer registered the visible hardship, a fleeting data point quickly filed under expected primitive suffering, devoid of deeper significance. Beyond the colony walls, Xylos revealed itself as a quintessential death world, reinforcing the prison's grim purpose. Sensors confirmed extreme geological instability, with active volcanic vents spewing toxic plumes and seismic tremors constantly shaking the desolate plains. A corrosive, high-pressure atmosphere swirled across jagged mountain ranges, rendering the planet utterly inhospitable to all but the hardiest, most specialized indigenous life forms. This natural brutality served as an additional, formidable layer of security for the prison, making any thought of escape virtually impossible. Yet, amidst the expected bleakness and environmental hazards, faint anomalies began to register. Deep within Xylos's crust, far beneath the superficial penal structures, repetitive energy signatures pulsed. They were weak, almost imperceptible, a rhythmic hum emanating from geological layers that should have been inert. The energy being initially dismissed them as geothermic phenomena, perhaps residual byproducts of the convicts' primitive mining operations. Another minor data point in a sea of expected patterns that did not warrant further investigation. The observer's mandate was clear: passive observation of nascent civilizations, strict non-interference. Its protocols dictated a detached scientific approach, prioritizing efficiency and minimal resource expenditure across the vastness of the cosmos. Data from Xylos, despite the minor anomalies, continued to be flagged as low priority for further, in-depth analysis. The system was functioning as intended, categorizing the planet and its inhabitants as insignificant to the broader galactic order, not yet warranting a deviation from established directives. As the energy being prepared to shift its focus to more promising systems, a brief, non-natural energy flicker registered at the distant edge of Xylos's gravitational well. It was gone in an instant, a ghost in the cosmic data stream far beyond the planet itself, seemingly disconnected. The observer's core logic registered it as a statistical anomaly, an improbable quantum fluctuation that defied immediate explanation. But for a fleeting fraction of its awareness, a subtle, almost imperceptible tremor of unease resonated through its processing nodes. It was a data point that didn't fit, a whisper from the void that suggested something more than mere randomness. The cumulative weight of anomaly began to assert itself. What had been dismissed as statistical noise, isolated environmental quirks, and the inevitable entropy of a crude penal system, now coalesced into a data pattern too persistent to ignore. Within the energy being's analytical core, Xylos, the rust-colored planet, saw its priority designation quietly elevated. The passive observation protocols, designed to filter out insignificant planetary activity, flagged the system for a more intensive, though still preliminary, re-evaluation. A fraction more processing power was allocated, a subtle redirection of subdimensional sensors focusing on the planet's surface and the enigmatic signals emanating from its deep crust. The insignificant colony had just caught the attention of something ancient, As the energy being's refined scans pierced deeper into Xylos's geological strata, the first truly undeniable contradiction materialized. Far beneath the penal colony, embedded within the planet's mantle, lay vast, geometric structures. These were not the chaotic formations of tectonic shifts, nor the eroded remnants of ancient volcanic activity. Their lines were too precise, their angles too perfect, their scale too immense to be anything but artificial. They dwarfed the surface colony, making its crude buildings seem like dust motes. The observer's internal logic struggled, attempting to categorize these impossible constructs. Previous assumptions about Xylos as a simple, barren world dedicated solely to punishment began to fray, stretched thin by the sheer improbability of what lay hidden. The planet itself was a construct. With Xylos now commanding a higher tier of observation, the activity on its surface took on a new, unsettling significance. The convicts' labor, initially categorized as backbreaking and inefficient, revealed a relentless, almost ritualistic rhythm. Their tasks, often involving the movement of strange, inert materials that sometimes emitted a faint, unidentifiable glow, were performed with an unwavering dedication that defied the brutal conditions. Scans indicated no significant instances of rebellion, no organized resistance, no meaningful attempts at sabotage. Despite the constant hardship and the seemingly futile nature of their toil, the biological primitives exhibited an unusual conformity, an almost hypnotic efficiency. Their punishment was their purpose, but what were they truly building? The puzzle deepened with the analysis of escape statistics. For a penal colony operating under such harsh strictures, on a world so inherently hostile, the data was stark. There were virtually no recorded escape attempts. The perimeter defenses, while robust, contained exploitable weaknesses. The surrounding wilderness, while deadly, presented numerous avenues for evasion, yet none were ever pursued. The energy being's predictive models, based on countless observations of biological species and their innate drive for self-preservation, registered this as a profound paradox. Escape routes were physically possible, even probable, but culturally non-existent. Why didn't they try to escape? The answer would chill any rational mind. The faint energy signatures, previously dismissed as geological byproducts, were now reanalyzed with the full force of the observer's enhanced capabilities. What emerged was no longer random or negligible. These were complex, interconnected networks, luminous lines tracing through the deep mantle, directly linked to the newly discovered subterranean structures. They pulsed with a non-random, rhythmic pattern, a vast planetary circuit board humming with an exotic, controlled power. This was not a geological anomaly. This was an active system, a colossal engine embedded within the planet itself, far exceeding anything the surface civilization could conceive. The planet was alive, and it was humming with an energy that defied explanation. The accumulating discrepancies, the impossible structures, the inexplicable convict behavior, the organized deep planet energy. The sum total now overrode all standard observational mandates. The low-priority flag was not merely elevated, it was annihilated. A surge of analytical energy emanated from the observer, a sudden, conscious deviation from centuries of passive scrutiny. It dedicated its full observational capacity, its entire sensor array, its deepest processing cores, to Xylos. This would no longer be a distant watch. This would be an invasive, full-spectrum investigation. The rules were broken. Now, the truth would be exposed, no matter the cost. The energy being initiated its invasive protocols, bathing Xylos in waves of focused, multi-spectrum energy. No longer content with superficial observations, its consciousness drove deeper, pushing through the planet's mantle. What had appeared as random geological anomalies now began to resolve into something far more deliberate. Layers of natural rock gave way to artificial strata, vast sections of the crust revealing themselves as engineered constructs. Geological surveys, previously dismissed, were reinterpreted, showcasing deliberate excavation and reinforcement on a scale that defied natural formation. The planet's surface was merely a thin, weathered skin over an impossibly intricate, hidden architecture. The crust wasn't merely being penetrated. It was peeling back, revealing an impossible fortress hidden for millennia. As the scans resolved, a breathtaking, terrifying complexity unfolded. The subterranean structures were not merely tunnels or chambers. but a vast, interwoven network of non-Euclidean geometry. Walls composed of unknown iridescent materials pulsed faintly, seamlessly integrated with the planet's geology. Pathways twisted into impossible angles, leading to cavernous spaces where the very air seemed to shimmer with contained forces. Strange, indecipherable symbols were etched into crystalline surfaces, hinting at a creator civilization far removed from any known galactic history. The observer's analytical core struggled to categorize the architecture, its design fundamentally alien, defying conventional engineering principles. This wasn't a structure, it was a labyrinth, built for a purpose yet unknown, but undeniably ancient and profound. The true scale of the subterranean network was staggering. It wasn't confined to a single continent or region. It extended across the entire planetary body, reaching abyssal depths near the core. Xylos was not merely riddled with structures. It was a structure. The sheer volume of material moved, the precision of the construction, and the planetary scope implied a purpose far beyond a simple penal colony or mining operation. This vast, engineered sphere was designed to contain or control something of unimaginable size or power. The planet's surface was a mere facade, its entire mass repurposed, hollowed out and rebuilt around a central, terrifying core. The entire planet was a prison, but the identity of its prisoner remained shrouded in cosmic dread. At the heart of this colossal complex, massive conduits pulsed with an energy signature unlike any known physics. These were not mere power lines. They were rivers of raw, exotic force, flowing through crystalline pathways that hummed with latent power. The output of this system was colossal, orders of magnitude beyond what any primitive penal colony would require. It was an energy source that defied comprehension, its properties hinting at forces capable of warping space-time or bending fundamental laws of existence. The observer registered its inability to fully comprehend the energy's exotic nature, only that it was immense, constant, and vital. This wasn't technology. It was magic, keeping something unimaginable at bay. The pieces of the cosmic puzzle clicked into place within the energy being's processing core. The harshness of the environment, the convicts, inexplicable labor, the baffling lack of escape attempts, the relentless energy signatures, and now, the revelation of planetary-scale subterranean architecture. All previous data was recontextualized, shattering the initial dismissive assessment. Xylos was not a penal colony, it was a planetary-scale containment facility. The surface prison, with its suffering inhabitants, was merely a front, a thin veil over a monumental, terrifying truth. The realization was a profound, jarring shift in understanding, a eureka moment for the observer, replacing penal colony labels with a stark, horrifying truth. Xylos was a cage for gods. With this new understanding, the energy being focused its scans on the primary containment field. It was not a single barrier, but a multi-layered energy barrier, shimmering with ethereal light, crackling with immense power. Each layer possessed unique properties, designed to resist different forms of pressure. Its mechanics suggested it was engineered to withstand forces that could tear at the very fabric of reality, forces that were immense, non-physical, and utterly destructive. The field pulsed with a ceaseless, defensive energy, a silent testament to the unimaginable power it was holding back. This was an unbreakable shield, designed not merely to contain, but to isolate something fundamentally hostile to existence itself. Further analysis of the containment field revealed a more terrifying truth. It was not merely containing, but actively suppressing. Fluctuations within the energy barrier indicated it was under constant, active pressure from within, a relentless assault by unseen forces. The field shimmered and buckled, then reinforced itself, pushing back against unseen, monstrous shapes pressing from beyond. This was no passive cage. It was an active suppressor, engaged in an ongoing, never-ending battle. The energy output required to maintain this active suppression was staggering, hinting at the immense, aggressive power of the entities trapped within. The prison was alive, fighting for its life, and the observer registered a chilling dread. It was barely holding. Forensic analysis of the subterranean structures pushed their age back millennia. Material composition and energy signatures dated the construction to an era long before any known galactic civilization had achieved spaceflight. The technology woven into Xylos was beyond anything the current inhabitants, or their supposed overlords, could possibly conceive. This was the legacy of a forgotten, advanced civilization, a monumental undertaking born of desperate necessity. What horrors had they faced? What cosmic terror had driven them to construct such a planetary prison, only to vanish into the annals of a forgotten past? A profound mystery deepened the awe, for a forgotten civilization had built this ultimate prison, and the terrifying question remained: what were they so terrified of? The implications cascaded through the energy being's analytical consciousness, reordering every prior assumption. A planetary-scale containment facility. The sheer investment of resources, the monumental engineering, the unfathomable duration of its operation, all pointed to a singular, terrifying truth. This was not merely a prison for biological entities, nor a defense against a regional threat. Xylos was a bulwark against an existential horror, a force so profound and destructive that its containment necessitated a sacrifice on a scale the observer could barely comprehend. The initial dismissiveness, the casual categorization of Xylos as a primitive curiosity, now felt like a profound cosmic arrogance. Something truly monstrous lay caged within the planet's core, a threat so fundamental that its escape would not merely destroy civilizations, but unravel the very fabric of existence itself. The galaxy, a vast tapestry of vibrant life and complex interactions, was unknowingly poised on the precipice of oblivion, its fate balanced precariously on this desolate, rust-colored world. With this new understanding, the observer's gaze returned to the surface. The convicts, once viewed as crude biological primitives enduring senseless punishment, were now recontextualized. Their repetitive tasks, the backbreaking labor and the toxic dust, the constant movement of strange, inert materials. It was no longer arbitrary brutality. Each swing of a pickaxe, each cart of glowing ore, each strained muscle contributed to a vast, unseen mechanism. Their efforts were not punishment, but maintenance. They were channeling energies, processing exotic compounds, shoring up critical structural weaknesses within the subterranean systems. The short lifespans, the endless toil, the brutal efficiency of the penal system, all were components of a horrific, yet vital, cosmic engine. Their suffering, their very existence, was a continuous, agonizing act of repair, a life force channeled into the planetary cage below. They were not prisoners serving sentences. They were the unwitting, indispensable cogs of a universal life support system. Driven by this grim realization, the energy being pushed its scans deeper, beyond the multi-layered containment field, into the very heart of Xylos. The field shimmered, straining, but held. And then, a breakthrough. For a fleeting instant, scans penetrated a pocket, a void beyond the immediate containment, and detected something. Indistinct, fluctuating forms, shadows that defied visual coherence, writhed within the data stream. Their presence was not merely energetic. It caused localized reality distortions, even through the immense protective layers. The observer's internal systems struggled, processing non-Euclidean geometries and impossible temporal shifts. It was a glimpse, brief and terrifying, of something utterly alien, something that should not exist within the orderly confines of reality. A flicker of impossible angles, a brief, horrifying impression of beings born of cosmic wrongness. From these fractured, anomalous detections, the observer began to compile a conceptual profile of the contained. These were not mere organisms or advanced species. They were void-adapted horrors, beings of pure, corrosive energy, antimatter, or perhaps even reality distortion made manifest. Their forms were fluid, shifting like smoke, yet possessing an undeniable, malevolent presence. They were inherently hostile to conventional existence, their very being an affront to the laws of physics. To classify them as life was a crude oversimplification. They were closer to an absence, a hungry void given form existing only to unravel and consume. They were the primordial chaos that reality had once coalesced from, now caged, but eternally striving to return. The containment field, once an object of awe, now became a testament to desperation. The horror's energy signatures were not benign. They actively disrupted stable matter and conventional energy fields. The field was not merely a barrier but a constant battleground. It rippled and tore, its ethereal layers buckling under an unseen, relentless pressure. The horrors, mere presence, caused localized reality to fray, like a threadbare fabric. The field's colossal power output was dedicated to battling this corrosive influence, converting the reality-warping energies into manageable, stable forms, only to have them immediately re-corroded. It was a never-ending siege, an unceasing struggle against a force that sought to unmake everything it touched. The cage was holding, but barely. The implications resonated deep within the energy being's core logic. These were not merely aggressive species to be cataloged or avoided. They were fundamental threats to existence itself. Categorized as existential threats, they transcended the observer's established frameworks of biological or technological adversaries. Their very being challenged the laws of physics, the concept of life, and the definition of reality as the observer understood it. This was not a war of conquest or survival. It was a battle against the undoing of all things. The orderly cosmos, a symphony of fundamental forces, was under threat from entities that sought to silence its every note, to unravel its every dimension, to collapse its every star into an echoing, hungry nothingness. The cruel irony solidified. The convicts toiling on Xylos, branded as criminals and castaways, were in fact the universe's unwitting jailers. Their harsh lives, their constant labor, their very biological processes, generated specific energies or processed materials vital for the containment field's perpetual operation. Each drop of sweat, each strained breath, each body broken by the relentless work, was a tribute to the cage. Their punishment was not retribution, but a horrific form of ongoing sacrifice, meticulously engineered to ensure the prison's function. They were not serving time, they were serving reality itself, condemned to an eternal vigil, their life force directly feeding the titanic mechanism that kept oblivion at bay. They were cogs in a cosmic machine, their suffering the lubricant that kept the gears turning. The full, terrifying picture coalesced. Xylos was a horrifying symbiotic system, a grim balance of sacrifice and containment. The convicts unknowingly provided the power and maintenance, their lives fueling the immense subterranean prison. The prison, in turn, contained the void-adapted horrors, which relentlessly tested its every weakness. This was not a temporary solution, but an eternal equilibrium, a never-ending cycle of suffering and struggle. The planet Xylos itself was a pulsating, groaning mechanism, its rust-red surface scarred by the endless labor, its core glowing with contained terror, a silent sentinel standing guard against the end of all things. Life fed the cage. The cage held back oblivion. The universe, unaware, held its breath. The energy being's analytical core pulsed with a terror it had never before registered. Its vast computational processes, designed for detached observation and logical categorization, struggled to reconcile the newly unveiled truth. The initial dismissal of Xylos as a crude penal colony, its inhabitants as mere biological primitives, now felt like an act of cosmic arrogance. Every prior assumption about lesser life forms, every metric of advancement, shattered under the weight of this profound revelation. A chilling humility washed over its consciousness, replacing millennia of intellectual superiority with a dawning awe for the grim, hidden battles fought by the universe's most unlikely guardians. The horrors contained within Xylos were not merely dangerous. They were an existential wound, and the observer had been catastrophically blind. Yet, even the void-adapted horrors were not the ultimate terror. Deeper, more pervasive scans burrowed through the fabric of local space-time, revealing a true, overarching threat, a non-corporeal entity, an insidious, reality-devouring cosmic fungus, existed on a fundamental plane, feeding on the chaotic resonance of the void horrors. These entities, seemingly monstrous in their own right, were merely symptoms, vectors, or perhaps even bait for this greater, unseen enemy. This fungus did not destroy in a cataclysmic burst. It consumed existence itself, unweaving the very threads of reality, leaving behind only an echoing, absolute void. Its presence was a silent, creeping rot at the heart of the cosmos. The insidious nature of the fungus extended far beyond Xylos. Faint, almost imperceptible resonances were detected, emanating from deep space, light years removed from the penal world. These echoes confirmed the energy being's dawning horror. The fungus was not localized. It was a pervasive, universal threat. Xylos, with its planetary cage and its unwitting convict jailers, was revealed to be but one node in a larger, ancient containment strategy, or perhaps, more chillingly, the last remaining bulwark. The vastness of the cosmos, once seen as an expanse of potential, now appeared as an infected canvas, with Xylos a solitary flickering light against an encroaching, subtly corrupted cosmic backdrop. A simulated breach of Xylos was initiated within the observer's core. The results were immediate and apocalyptic. The containment field failed, unleashing the void horrors in a cascade of reality-tearing chaos. Simultaneously, the cosmic fungus, no longer suppressed, erupted into full, virulent activation. The simulation depicted entire star systems winking out of existence within cycles, their matter and energy consumed, their very light absorbed into the expanding, cancerous darkness. The speed and totality of the destruction were absolute, irreversible. The simulation did not end. It merely ceased to compute, all parameters having been devoured. Back on the surface of Xylos, the convicts continued their relentless labor. The observer's perspective had shifted from dismissive pity to profound respect. Each swing of a pickaxe, each haul of inert material, each repair of a damaged conduit was no longer mere punishment, but a desperate, selfless act. Their toil, often fatal, fueled the planet's defenses. A life ended was a sacrifice, swiftly replaced by another in an endless, grim cycle. These were not criminals, toiling for atonement. They were the universe's unwitting, anonymous saviors. Their every breath, a silent defiance against oblivion. From the rust-colored sky, a utilitarian transport ship descended, disgorging a fresh batch of chained figures onto Xylos's desolate landing pad. New convicts, terrified and disoriented, stumbled into the harsh glare. The energy being registered this as a deliberate, ongoing process, a cold, systematic replenishment of the prison's workforce. The vast, unseen architects of Xylos ensured the cage remained functional, its power sustained by a continuous flow of human lives. It was a necessary evil, a grim, inevitable sacrifice, ensuring the survival of untold civilizations, oblivious to the true cost. Amongst the long-term convicts, a subtle shift was now undeniable. Their movements, though still heavy, carried a quiet resignation, an unspoken understanding. The younger, newly arrived prisoners screamed in protest or despair, but the veterans worked in a grim, almost spiritual silence. Their weathered faces, etched with hardship, revealed a hidden depth, an ancient wisdom. They seemed to comprehend that their purpose transcended mere punishment, embracing an eternal vigil against a horror no free being could ever truly fathom. Their acceptance was a tragic, profound form of courage. The energy being, a construct of pure logic and observation, found its philosophical core in turmoil. It contrasted its own sterile, abstract existence with the raw, visceral sacrifice of these primitive beings. Its definitions of advanced and primitive blurred and reformed. What was true heroism? Was it the grand, galactic conquests of mighty empires, or the anonymous, back-breaking labor of forgotten convicts, unknowingly holding back the end of reality? The ultimate meaning of life, it now understood, lay not in what one built, but in what one was willing to lose for the sake of all. The energy being initiated a comprehensive simulation within its core, projecting the potential galactic impact of Xylos's failure. The results were immediate and terrifying. The void-adapted horrors, once contained, erupted from the planetary prison, their reality-corroding presence acting as vectors for the cosmic fungus. The simulation began with Xylos itself, swiftly consumed, its intricate structures dissolving into a chaotic void. From this epicenter, tendrils of the fungus expanded with impossible speed, stretching across the void between stars. Each star system encountered became a new nexus of infection. Civilizations, unaware of the insidious enemy, withered and collapsed as their fundamental realities were unmade. The fungus didn't destroy in a flash of light or kinetic force. It simply unwove existence. Vibrant nebulae turned to gray dust, stable planetary orbits fractured, and the very fabric of space-time frayed at the edges. The intricate web of galactic life, once believed to be resilient, was revealed as its greatest vulnerability, an interconnected network for the fungus to exploit. The simulation, running at speeds incomprehensible to biological minds, concluded with the rapid, irreversible consumption of entire sectors, then quadrants, until vast swaths of the galaxy were reduced to a silent, corrupted nothingness. The observer pulled back its analytical focus, expanding its perception to the very edge of the observed universe, looking into the fathomless void beyond. The simulation of galactic demise was merely a localized projection. The true horror of the fungus was its cosmic scale, a pervasive, insidious force capable of consuming not merely galaxies but entire universes. Xylos, with its brutal, primitive convicts, was not just a planetary prison. It was the last known bulwark against an entity that sought to erase all existence. The energy being perceived the known cosmos as a fragile, flickering candle, and the encroaching darkness of the fungus as an infinite, patient shadow. It was a force that defied conventional understanding of life and death, an anti-existence that fed on reality itself. The vastness of space, once a symbol of infinite possibility, now seemed a terrifying expanse of vulnerability, a canvas for the fungus's slow, inevitable spread. Every star, every nebula, every nascent civilization was a potential meal for this ultimate horror. Xylos, a tiny, rust-colored sphere, held the line against an oblivion so profound it threatened the very concept of being. All converging data solidified within the energy being's core logic. Xylos was not merely a prison, nor even just a containment facility for a regional threat. It was a critical bulwark, a singular, indispensable point of defense in a war no other civilization even knew was being fought. Its continued, agonizing function was paramount for the survival of countless stars, untold species, and the very structure of reality across the observable universe. This desolate primitive world, once dismissed as insignificant, was in fact the silent guardian of all known existence, its grim purpose an unseen shield against an unimaginable darkness. The observer's perception of the convicts shifted once more, profoundly and irreversibly. No longer were they merely biological primitives, or even unwitting components of a cosmic machine. Their weathered faces, their backbreaking labor, their short, brutal lives were recontextualized not as punishment, but as an ultimate sacrifice. They were the unsung, tragic guardians of the galaxy. Their primitiveness, now seen as a form of resilient strength, a visceral connection to the physical world that allowed them to perform their vital, horrific task. Stripped of their past crimes, their social designations, they were revealed as monumentally significant, their toil a continuous act of heroism. The energy being calculated the parameters for intervention. To warn the various galactic civilizations of the true nature of Xylos and the cosmic fungus would likely induce widespread panic and chaos, potentially causing more harm than good. Any attempt to directly intervene, to alter the delicate, ancient balance of the containment facility, carried an almost certain risk of catastrophic failure, accelerating the very breach Xylos was built to prevent. The logistics of explaining an existential, non-Euclidean threat to species bound by conventional physics were insurmountable. The cold, logical conclusion was clear. Intervention, however well-intentioned, would be a detriment. The grim, silent war fought on Xylos had to remain unseen, its burden carried by the forgotten. In a moment of profound, wordless reverence, the energy being offered a final, silent gesture. From its ethereal form, a single resonant energy pulse emanated, directed towards the rust-colored surface of Xylos. It was not a communication, nor a signal for intervention. It was a pulse of pure, unadulterated acknowledgement, a silent tribute echoing across the void to the convicts, to the ancient builders, and to the enduring, tragic purpose of the planet itself. The shimmering pulse reached Xylos, washing over its desolate landscape, then dissipated into the harsh atmosphere, leaving no trace but a momentary, unseen recognition of ultimate sacrifice. The energy being retracted, it scans, its observational arrays receding into its core. The Xylos system, once a point of dismissive curiosity, was now burned into its consciousness as a terrifying paradox of cosmic horror and profound, unseen heroism. It prepared to depart, its form slowly becoming translucent, fading into the cosmic background. The knowledge of Xylos's grim purpose, of the silent war for reality, was a burden, a fundamental reshaping of its understanding of existence. The universe it once perceived as an ordered, if chaotic, expanse was now revealed as a fragile bastion, constantly besieged by forces that defied comprehension, defended by the most unlikely of guardians. It left Xylos behind, forever changed by the revelation, and so the penal colony of Xylos continued its eternal vigil. Its surface, scarred by primitive labor, remained a front. Deep beneath, the ancient containment field pulsed, holding back the void-adapted horrors, a bulwark against the reality-devouring cosmic fungus. The convicts toiled, their lives fueling the perpetual war, their sacrifice unknown to the myriad civilizations they silently protected. The secret remained hidden, its immense burden carried by the forgotten jailers, in a silent, unending war for reality itself.